Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
General Hospital spoilers for Monday, November 24th, reveal that Sonny Corinthos will stop Laura Collins' police concession while Nathan West faces an insolvable task. Jack Brennan will also unleash his fury, so then's what GH suckers can anticipate. After Jason Morgan takes care of the whole Professor Henry Hank Dalton situation, he'll return to Britt Westbourne's room within reason and a pledge. Jason will be sorry for having to bail on their earlier discussion and will contend he's going to prove that Britt can trust him. Will Britt let herself believe that or continue keeping Jason at a distance? As for Jocelyn Jacks and S. Vaughn, they'll land in bed together despite being interdicted from having any kind of romantic trap. During pillow talk, Jocelyn will fret over Lucas Jones potentially ending up with further than just a broken heart now that he's living under dangerous Jen Sidwell's roof. Monday's GH exercise videotape also shows Brennan declaring, "This is what happens to people who defy my orders." Will Brennan catch Vaughn and Jocelyn's secret rendezvous before handing down some consequences? Whatever the case, Carly Spencer will impinge into Jocelyn on Monday's show, so she could fluently spot her son coming out of Vaughn's suite or commodity along those lines. Jocelyn may end up on the hot seat after Carly's coming discovery. Speaking of discoveries, Sonny has made a horrible one now that he's caught up in Laura's dead Dalton extremity. Laura will have alternate studies and consider going to the police, but Sonny will advise that she'll be opening them both up to felonious charges if she does. While Sonny shuts down Laura's Bobby concession, ADA Justine Turner will push Nathan to take someone into guardianship. Will Nathan be assigned with hauling Dalton in after Alexis Davis and Rick Lansing's legal strategy workshop? That'll be a problem since Dalton obviously is alive to get arrested. Over with Dante Falconeri, he'll make an oath to someone. This may involve Rocco Falconeri and Dante's determination to make sure his son stays on the right path. Meanwhile, Lucas will tell Elizabeth Baldwin that commodity was great until it wasn't. We know some crazy effects will start passing at Windmere soon, so Lucas may formally have some strange updates following his move-in decision. Sonny Corinthos and Gio Palmieri's heart-to-heart while sitting with Sonny at the Metro Court. Gio participated that Dante Falconeri doesn't want him as his son. Sonny confided Gio for being honest about his involvement in the lab break heft. But Gio expressed remorse that Dante had returned to his old view of him after he risked Rocco Falconeri again. Sonny comforted him that formerly Rocco was back home, everything would settle down and Dante would come around. He tried to explain that conflicts can arise between parents and children, but Gio replied that although he and Dante are biologically connected, that's their only bond. Brooke Lynn Quartermaine upset at the sanitarium. General Hospital recaps for Friday's show note that Brooke Lynn Quartermaine was on a call with Tracy Quartermaine, telling her that all was well and to enjoy her trip. Still, after ending the call, she appeared worried. Michael Corinthos came by to ask about Ned Quartermaine, and Brooke Lynn said he was doing okay, but she felt awful for not informing Tracy about his heart attack. Michael tried to console her, saying there was nothing Tracy could have done. He encouraged her to let her grandmother enjoy her holiday. But Brooke Lynn still felt shamefaced for lying to her grandmother. Michael Corinthos encouraged his kinsman to talk. Michael observed that commodity was easily troubling her, and Brooke Lynn confessed that her heart was paining over the recent fallout between Dante and Gio. She described how furious Dante had been and the way he'd talked to Gio, suffering that she felt helpless. Michael participated that despite the difficulties he faced with his own father, he always had his mama's support, encouraging Brooke Lynn to reach out to Gio. She was upset about making a mistake and pushing him down, but Michael comforted her that she'd find a way, also went to get her a smoothie from the cafeteria. Gio came to the sanitarium looking for Michael and asked Brooke Lynn about Ned's condition. Gio and Brooke Lynn's chat. She handed him with a positive update and offered to relay a communication to Michael if he preferred not to stay. Still, Gio mentioned that Michael had told him he was demanded, though he was uncertain why. "I suppose Michael meant that you were demanded by me," Brooke Lynn soughed. Gio agreed to stay and heeded as she clarified that Dante didn't speak for her, and she fully understood that Gio no way intended to hurt Rocco. Gio expressed that someone still got hurt, also realized that trying to do good and having effects go wrong was analogous to when she gave him up for relinquishment. Brooklyn reminded him that he'd no way of knowing what Rocco would do, so he shouldn't condemn himself. Gio called Brooklyn Mama for the first time. General Hospital recaps for November 21st indicate that as BLQ placed a comforting hand on his arm, she felt touched when he placed his hand on hers. She assured him that he did the right thing by being honest, and he replied, "Thanks, Mama," before giving her a thankful clinch. Michael approached from before and smiled at the gladdening scene. This was a huge step for Gio to be suitable to admit his birth mama. Michael knew he did the right thing by encouraging Brooklyn to talk to Gio. Harrison Chase on the case. Harrison Chase visited Alexis Davis's office to inform her that he could demonstrate that Michael's justification was false. He explained further, if Jacinda Bracken was with a customer the night Drew was shot. Alexis agreed until the operative mentioned that Nina Reeves had told him Ezra Boyle was one of her guests. Nina would do anything to help Willow Tate, and she's prevaricated ahead. Still, Chase claimed that Ezra himself had mentioned Jacinda during their discussion at the bar. After he'd bought him many drinks, Alexis valued his backing but reminded Chase that he couldn't swear about this in court, and that Ezra and Jacinda would simply lie. He promised to find substantiation himself by bringing Ezra in on supplication charges and interrogating him to uncover the verity. Alexis advised him that undermining Michael's justification doesn't inescapably profit Willow's case and advised that he could be risking his life and career for no reason. But Chase remained bent and stated, "Willow's freedom is worth it." Chase determined to not give up until he could find commodity he could bring to court to exculpate her. The Davis girls have drinks at the Brown Dog across city. Molly and Christina were having drinks at the Brown Dog when Cody walked in, and Christina snappily asked him to join them. Molly thanked Cody again for saving her father in the forest land and talked about how important Rick Lansing has changed since the incident. Christina watched nervously as Cody played down his heroism. When Jacinda arrived, Christina precipitously excused herself to talk to Michael's new gal at the bar. Jacinda asked about Charlie's, and Christina mentioned that the structure had to be demolished, so they wouldn't be continuing. Christina Corinthos Davis takes notice. She also asked Jacinda to laugh as if she had just said commodity funny, giving Molly and Cody some time alone. At the table, effects got a bit awkward when Cody reflected on Jacinda's aesthetics, but Molly snappily recovered and subtly remarked that occasionally you meet someone and realize there's commodity about them. When Cody asked how her exploration was going, Molly said she had moved on to country music, which she didn't know important about. As Cody began to explain the different stripes, he suddenly pulled her up to cotillion to a song that started playing on the jukebox. It was awkward at first, but they soon set up a meter and participated a close moment. Christina noticed and told Jacinda the two were into each other but hadn't figured it out yet. Read this General Hospital spoilers. Michael's alibi crumbles as Jacinda's truth emerges. Jason Morgan sees Britt Westbourne. General Hospital recaps reveal that Britt gathered her studies and was about to essay edging in her drug again when Jason knocked on her door. He was there to inform her that Rick had cooked a new legal plan to help Rocco by outslicking Professor Henry Dalton. After recalling Jen Sidwell shooting Dalton in front of her, Britt anxiously pondered what it could be. She felt relieved to learn that Danny Morgan and Charlotte Cassadine were planning to turn themselves in to demonstrate that Dalton was framing Rocco. But she said when Jason bared that the teens had taken the key to the lab from her, leaving her to wonder why she held a key to Dalton's lab. Jason grilled Britt. Britt tried to push him out, but Jason claimed he was apprehensive of Dalton's involvement in her work at the Five Poppies and that this connection had easily persisted in Port Charles. Realizing she was in a precarious situation, he wanted to help her, but he couldn't do so if she kept him uninformed. However, "I need to know you'd prioritize me," Britt contended desperately. "I need to be sure you're worth me risking my life, if I tell you." Unfortunately, before Jason could respond, he got a call from Sonny. Britt soughed and prompted him to answer it. When Jason said he demanded to deal with Sonny, a defeated Britt pushed him out of her room. He apologized sorrowfully before she slammed the door. Laura Collins panicked. Laura Collins was shocked to discover Dalton's body in her auto box and checked his palpitation to confirm he was dead. Flashing back how she had hovered the professor at the polling place, she tried to call Kevin Collins, but realized he was in Dublin and couldn't help. She also tried to reach Alexis but only got her voicemail. As her anxiety grew, Laura made another call, contending for help and furnishing her position. While staying in the auto, she shocked upon seeing Dalton's blood on her hand and jumped when Nathan West tapped on the window to check on her. Trying to stay calm, Laura said she was just stressed after the election and had a flat tire. When Nathan went to get the extra, Laura shocked and followed him. Just as Sonny arrived, Jason Morgan, the fixer Sonny donated to replace the tire, and Nathan mentioned that together they could do it snappily, but also the operative entered a call and had to head to work. He offered to request backup, but Sonny comforted him that he could manage it. Once Nathan left, Sonny opened the box and saw the terrible sight. After reaching Jason to handle it, Sonny informed Laura that they demanded to leave. Still feeling anxious, she was reticent to abandon her auto, but he pressed her to go. Latterly, Jason showed up, changed the tire, also drove down. Laura Collins realized Jen Sidwell set her up back at her office. General Hospital recaps for the November 21st occasion note Laura was crying as she participated how she considered calling the police but also dithered. Sonny inquired if she had touched the body, and she confessed that she had checked his palpitation and gotten blood on her. She wondered what her coming way should be, and Sonny comforted her that her auto would be returned pristine, and Dalton would evaporate. Someone is trying to produce problems for you, he advised. Someone is unhappy with the outgrowth. Do you get what I'm saying? Laura reflected that Ezra and Drew Kane were dissatisfied she had been re-elected as mayor before eventually settling on Sidwell, realizing it was him. The aftermath, Laura's crisis of conscience and Sonny's hard truth. The sterile, fluorescent lights of the mayor's office did little to dispel the chilling darkness that had taken root in Laura Collins's soul. The immediate, heart-pounding terror of finding Dalton's body in her trunk had subsided, replaced by a cold, gnawing dread. The ghost of the professor's corpse seemed to linger in the air, a spectral accusation. Across from her, Sonny Corinthos was a study in grim resolve, his presence both a comfort and a condemnation. I can't do this, Sonny, Laura whispered, her voice frayed at the edges. I keep seeing him. I should go to the police. I should tell them everything. Her hands trembled as she clasped them together, a physical attempt to hold her crumbling composure in place. This was her second thoughts manifesting, the innate morality of a public servant rebelling against the grim reality of her situation. Sonny's response was not one of comfort, but of cold, hard calculus. He leaned forward, his voice low and intent, shutting down any notion of a police confession. If you do that, you'll be opening us both up to criminal charges, he warned. Obstruction of justice, accessory after the fact. You found a body and your first call was to me, not the PCPD. How do you explain that? He painted the legal nightmare in stark terms, forcing her to see the gilded cage she was now trapped within. Her political career, her freedom, everything she had built, would evaporate in an instant. The baptism by fire was complete, the flames were now the hidden, smoldering kind that could consume her from the inside out. This tense standoff between conscience and survival was happening against a backdrop of official pressure. Across town, ADA Justine Turner, a woman whose ambition was as sharp as her suits, was applying her own kind of heat. She pushed Nathan West, the good-hearted officer who had almost stumbled upon the truth, to take someone into custody. The legal strategy crafted by Alexis Davis and Rick Lansing was working, creating enough reasonable doubt to force the DA's hand. But Nathan now faced an impossible task. He was likely being pressured to haul Dalton in for questioning. The grim irony of being tasked with arresting a dead man would not be lost on him, creating a professional and ethical quagmire that would test his dedication to the letter of the law. A promise broken and a promise made, Jason and Britt's delicate dance. The room above Bobby's felt more like a prison cell than a sanctuary. Britt Westbourne's encounter with Jason Morgan had ended with a slammed door and a heart fractured by abandonment. His abrupt departure to handle Sonny's problem had confirmed her deepest fear, that she would always be second priority. The memory of Jen Sidwell's cold eyes and the echoing gunshot that had ended Dalton's life were a constant loop in her mind, a horror film she couldn't escape. When a quiet knock came at her door hours later, she considered ignoring it. But it was Jason, returned from his grim task. The apology was in his eyes before it left his lips. "I'm sorry I had to leave," he stated, his voice a low, steady rumble in the quiet room. He didn't offer excuses, that wasn't his way. Instead, he offered a reaffirmation of his vow. "I'm going to prove that you can trust me." The question hung in the air between them, fragile and immense. Will Britt let herself believe that or continue keeping Jason at a distance? Her entire being was a shield of self-preservation. To trust him was to hand him the power to destroy her, either by his inaction or by the dangerous actions her truth would compel him to take. Yet, the isolation was crushing. The weight of Sidwell's secret, the guilt over the children being implicated, and the terror of being next on his list were a burden too heavy to carry alone. Jason's return was a lifeline, but taking it felt like the riskiest gamble of her life. His promise was not just about protection, it was a pledge of priority, and for Britt, that was a language she had never been taught to believe. Forbidden fire, Jocelyn and Vaughn's reckless rendezvous. While the city's elders grappled with murder and conspiracy, a different kind of rebellion was brewing, one fueled by youthful passion and a blatant disregard for danger. The forbidden romance between Jocelyn Jacks and S. Vaughn had escalated, culminating in a secret rendezvous that landed them in bed together. The world with its dire warnings and dangerous benefactors was shut out, if only for a few hours. In the quiet intimacy of pillow talk, however, reality began to seep back in. Jocelyn's mind, ever loyal and concerned for those she loved, turned to Lucas Jones. "I'm worried about Lucas," she fretted, her head on Vaughn's shoulder. "He's living under Sidwell's roof now. What if he ends up with more than a broken heart?" Her intuition was picking up on the malevolent energy that surrounded Sidwell, a sense that Windermere was more a gilded prison than a home. Their clandestine peace was threatened by the specter of Jack Brennan, Vaughn's controlling and ruthless superior. The preview video of Brennan declaring, "This is what happens to people who disobey my orders," was a chilling promise of retribution. The consequences for their forbidden entanglement would be severe, and the threat of discovery now loomed large. This fear was compounded by the very real possibility of Carly Spencer, Jocelyn's fiercely protective mother, bumping into her daughter. The simple act of Carly spotting Jocelyn emerging from Vaughn's suite, flushed and secretive, would be enough to ignite a firestorm of maternal interrogation, putting Jocelyn squarely on the hot seat and potentially exposing their secret to the most dangerous man in their orbit. Fathers and sons, the fractured bond of Dante and Gio. Amidst the high-stakes drama, the quiet, profound pain of a fractured family continued to ache. Sonny Corinthos, having navigated his own share of familial strife, found himself in the role of counselor once more. His heart-to-heart with Gio at the Metro Court was a study in generational pain. Joe's confession was heartbreaking in its simplicity. "Dante doesn't want me as his son." He spoke of the regret that his father had reverted to seeing him as a problem, a disappointment, after the lab incident endangered Rocco. Sonny, the patriarch, tried to offer the solace of time and perspective. He commended Gio for his honesty and attempted to explain the universal conflicts between parents and children. But Joe's retort was a dagger to the heart of their relationship. "We're biologically connected. That's our only bond." It was the cry of a son who felt fundamentally unseen and unloved by his father. This conversation was the catalyst for one of the episode's most poignant moments. Following Michael's subtle encouragement, Brooke Lynn found the courage to bridge the years of distance with her own son. Their chat at the hospital was a delicate dance of apology and absolution. Brooke Lynn assured Gio that Dante's anger did not represent her feelings. "I understand you never intended to hurt Rocco," she affirmed, separating his character from the consequence. In a moment of breathtaking emotional intelligence, Gio connected their plights. He realized that his mother, in giving him up for adoption, was also someone who tried to do good, only to have things go terribly wrong. This shared understanding was the key that unlocked years of guarded emotion. When Brooke Lynn placed a comforting hand on his arm and he covered it with his own, it was a silent pact of mutual forgiveness. His quiet, overwhelmed thanks, "Mom," was not just a word, it was an acceptance, an acknowledgement, and a healing. The subsequent embrace, witnessed by a smiling Michael, was a testament to the power of encouraging words to mend even the most broken of bonds. Meanwhile, Dante, isolated in his own fear and anger, would make a vow, likely to himself or to Rocco, a promise to steer his son back to safety, unaware that in doing so, he was pushing another son further away. Unraveling truths, Chase's crusade and Windmere's whispers. The pursuit of justice took on a dogged, personal tone in Alexis Davis's office. Harrison Chase, his detective's badge feeling heavier than ever, laid out his case. He informed Alexis that he could prove Michael's alibi was false, explaining that a drunken Ezra Boyle had admitted Jacinda was with him the night Drew was shot. Alexis, the voice of legal reason, immediately identified the flaw. "It's hearsay, Harrison. Ezra and Jacinda will just lie under oath." But Chase, his love for Willow a burning conviction, would not be deterred. He was determined to find tangible evidence, even if it meant bringing Ezra in on solicitation charges and breaking him down in an interrogation room. Alexis's warnings were grave. "You could be jeopardizing your life and career for no reason," she cautioned, recognizing the immense power of the forces they were challenging. Chase's resolve, however, was ironclad. "Willow's freedom is worth it," he declared, a romantic's vow in a cynical world. His crusade was a ticking clock, one that threatened to expose not just Michael's lie, but the entire corrupt foundation it was built upon. Elsewhere, the first strange tremors from Windmere were being felt. Lucas Jones, now residing under Jen Sidwell's roof, confided in Elizabeth Baldwin with a cryptic observation. "Something was great until it wasn't," he told her. This vague, unsettling comment hinted at the bizarre happenings beginning to permeate the ancient castle. Lucas, seeking refuge from a broken heart, may have walked into a far more dangerous and gothic nightmare, one where the shadows held secrets far darker than his own sorrow. New beginnings and grim realizations. Amidst the turmoil, moments of normalcy and connection persisted, serving as a stark contrast to the encroaching darkness. At the Brown Dog, the chemistry between Molly Lansing Davis and Cody Bell continued to simmer. Christina's tactful exit and staged laughter with Jacinda provided the perfect cover for their budding romance. Cody's invitation to dance, sparked by Molly's research into country music, evolved from an awkward shuffle into a close, intimate moment. As they swayed, Christina noted with a smile that the two were clearly into each other, a small, sweet subplot in a city drowning in drama. The episode's final, chilling realization belonged to Laura Collins. Back in her office, as Sonny calmly outlined how her car would be returned, detailed and devoid of its gruesome cargo, he reframed the murder. "Someone is trying to create problems for you," he said. "Someone is unhappy with the election results." Laura's mind, sharpened by decades of political combat, raced through the list of suspects. Ezra's smug opposition, Drew's lingering resentment, and then it settled, with terrifying certainty, on the true architect of her nightmare. "Sidwell," she breathed, the name a curse. The pieces clicked into place. This was not a random act of violence but a calculated, political hit designed to destabilize and destroy her. She had been set up. The stage was now set for a war that would span the social, political, and criminal strata of Port Charles. Laura, armed with the truth but trapped by her complicity, would have to find a way to fight a shadowy enemy. Britt, poised on the knife's edge of trust, held the power to bring down an empire, if she could find the courage to speak. And in the middle of it all, families were fracturing and reforming, their personal dramas playing out against a backdrop of mortal danger. The baptism was over, the battle for the soul of Port Charles had just begun.